The tunnel is carved into the rock at a depth of about 13 meters below the ground. The newly discovered tunnel is over 1,300 meters long.
A revelation that will redefine history as we know it. The long-lost tomb of none other than the legendary Queen Cleopatra has been unearthed. Hidden for centuries, this extraordinary find promises to unravel the enigmatic queen's mysterious life and reign. What secrets lie within the hallowed chambers? Prepare to be enthralled as we delve deep into the cryptic past, unearthing the untold stories and captivating intrigues that have remained hidden until now. Egyptian queen gained notoriety in history and drama as Mark Antony's wife after having been Julius Caesar's lover. She became queen upon the death of her father, Ptolemy XII, in the year 51 BCE. She shared the role of governing Egypt with her two brothers, Ptolemy XIII and Ptolemy XIV, as well as her son, Ptolemy XV Caesar. After the Roman army led by Octavian defeated their combined troops, both Mark Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide, and Egypt was thereafter conquered by the Romans. Cleopatra was the first woman in antiquity who actively influenced Roman politics during a crucial juncture, and as a result, she became the archetype for the romantic femme fatale. Cleopatra's influence was unparalleled. The last monarch of the Macedonian dynasty, which controlled Egypt from the time Alexander the Great died in 323 BCE until it was annexed by Rome in 30 BCE, was Cleopatra, the daughter of King Ptolemy XII Auletes. The line was formed by Ptolemy, Alexander's general, who rose to become King Ptolemy I Soter of Egypt. Although Plutarch claimed that Cleopatra was the only person in her household to bother learning Egyptian, she was of Macedonian ancestry and had little to no Egyptian blood. For political reasons, she dubbed herself the new Isis, a title that set her apart from the earlier Ptolemaic queen, Cleopatra III, who also asserted that she was the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. Ptolemy XII's infant son, Ptolemy XIII, and daughter, Cleopatra VII, succeeded him as king when he passed away in 51 BCE. The two might have wed soon after their father passed away, although this is not confirmed. At the age of 18, Cleopatra, who was almost 8 years older than her brother, ascended to power. Evidence indicates that Ptolemy's name initially appeared before Cleopatra's in a decree in October of 50 BCE. In 48 BCE, Cleopatra was compelled to flee from Egypt and travel to Syria, where she amassed an army before meeting her brother at Pelusium on Egypt's eastern frontier. Cleopatra was aware that if she sought to reclaim the throne, she would need the help of the Romans and, more specifically, Caesar. Both were determined to use the other. To maintain his hegemony, Caesar looked for resources to pay Auletes, Cleopatra's father's, debts. Cleopatra was steadfast in her desire to hold on to her throne and, if at all possible, restore the splendor of the early Ptolemies and recapture as much of their dominions, which had included southern Syria and Palestine. Caesar and Cleopatra had a love affair and spent the winter under siege at Alexandria. When Roman armies finally arrived the next spring, Ptolemy XIII fled and drowned in the Nile. After getting married to her brother Ptolemy XIV, Cleopatra was given the throne back. In June 47 BCE, she gave birth to Ptolemy Caesar. Caesar's name suggests that he was the father of Caesarion, however, this is unproven. Caesar needed 2 years to extinguish the last of the Pompeian dissidents. To celebrate his victory over a foreign foe, Alexander hosted a 4-day triumph at Rome in 46 BCE. During this time, Arsinoe, Cleopatra's younger and rival sister, was paraded. At least once, Cleopatra traveled to Rome on a state visit with her son and husband-brother. She stayed at Caesar's private residence beyond the Tiber River and may have been present when a golden statue of Venus Genetrix, the ancestor of the Julian family to which Caesar belonged, was consecrated in the temple. When Caesar was killed in 44 BCE, Cleopatra was there in Rome. Soon after Cleopatra returned to Alexandria in 44 BCE, her co-regent Ptolemy XIV passed away. Ptolemy XV Caesar, the Cleopatra's little son, and she now shared rule. Mark Antony assumed the role of Caesar's apparent heir when his assassins were killed at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE, or so it appeared, but because Octavian, Caesar's great-nephew and personal heir, was only a young kid. After Caesar's death, Antony, who was now in charge of Rome's eastern provinces, sent Cleopatra to explain what she had done. She delayed her departure to heighten Antony's suspense and then set out for Tarsus, Asia Minor, with gifts. She rowed a boat up to the Cydnus River to the city, dressed in the attire of the new Isis. Antony was fascinated because he associated with the god Dionysus. In Alexandria, where he saw Cleopatra as an independent queen rather than a protected sovereign, Antony forgot about Fulvia, who was trying her best to defend her husband's interests in Italy against the growing threat posed by young Octavian. At Alexandria, Cleopatra and Antony established the Inimitable Liver Society, whose members led lives that had some historians considering to be hedonistic and foolish, while others interpret as devotion to the fabled god Dionysus. Around 40 BCE, Cleopatra gave birth to twins with the names Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene. After leaving Alexandria for Italy, Antony was forced to call a short truce with Octavian. He got married to Octavia, Octavian's sister, as a condition of the deal. 3 years had passed, and Antony was certain that he and Octavian would never be able to make amends. He traveled to Egypt to get married to Cleopatra when his marriage to Octavia became irrelevant. Cleopatra wanted the restitution of the majority of Egypt's eastern kingdom, including sizable portions of Syria and Lebanon, as well as the precious balsam orchards of Jericho, in exchange for Antony's financial support for his postponed Parthian assault. The Parthian expedition was an expensive failure, much like the quick acquisition of Armenia. But in 34 BCE, Antony made a successful return to Alexandria. This was followed by a ritual called the Donations of Alexandria. Throngs of people flocked to the gymnasium to see Cleopatra and Antony sitting on golden thrones on a silver platform, accompanied by their kids on slightly lower thrones. Caesar had adopted Octavian as his son and heir, but Antony recognized Caesarion as his legitimate son and declared Octavian to be legally illegitimate. Caesarion was the king of kings, while Cleopatra was known as the queen of kings. While his baby brother Ptolemy received the region west of the Euphrates, Alexander Helios received Armenia and the region beyond it. The brother's sister, Cleopatra Selene, was to rule Cyrene. Octavian could discern Antony's plan to rule the developed world through his large family from Rome. A conflict over propaganda broke out. Octavian revealed to the Roman populace that Antony had not only given away Roman goods to a foreign lady, but also desired to be buried with her in Egypt. He did this by stealing Antony's will from the Vestal Virgin's temple, to whom it had been consigned. The rumor that Antony planned to relocate the capital from Rome to Alexandria also quickly circulated. Cleopatra and Antony traveled to Greece during the winter of 32 and 31 BCE to spend time there. Antony's intended consulate for the following year was rejected by the Roman Senate at the same time as they waged war on Cleopatra. At the naval battle of Actium, which took place on September 2, 31 BCE, Octavian faced off against Antony and Cleopatra's combined forces. The outcome of the battle was a loss for the Egyptians. Antony and Cleopatra escaped to Egypt, and once there, Cleopatra retreated to her mausoleum, while Antony engaged in the conflict that would prove to be his last. After hearing the news that Cleopatra had passed away, Antony promptly slumped onto his sword. After pleading with Cleopatra to make peace with Octavian, he decided to carry out a final act of devotion by having himself transported to Cleopatra's retreat and passing away there. Antony was buried by Cleopatra before she committed suicide herself. Her demise is shrouded in mystery, but classical authors came to assume she took her own life by hanging herself with an an, which is a symbol of divine royalty. Under the ancient Taposiris Magna Temple in Egypt, a rock-cut tunnel has been discovered by archaeologists. It may lead to the location of the tomb of Cleopatra, who ruled Egypt as the final Ptolemaic pharaoh from 51 to 30 BCE. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities made the discovery public knowledge 1 week ago and referred to the 4,265-foot tunnel that is buried 43 feet below the surface as a geometric miracle. It reminds of the Tunnel of Eupalinos, which is located on the island of Samos in Greece and was an impressive architectural achievement in ancient times. The discovery was made by researcher Kathleen Martinez of the University of Santo Domingo during a dig that Martinez was in charge of, according to Ancient Origins, which related this information. Mark Antony, who was married to Cleopatra, ended his own life as well. It is known that Cleopatra committed suicide shortly after discovering that her husband had also committed suicide, and it is commonly believed that Emperor Augustus gave his blessing for Cleopatra to be laid to rest alongside her lover. The fact that their 3 children survived and were able to grow up as Roman citizens reveals something about how even her adversaries regarded her. It is also possible that Cleopatra and her lover were mummified because she was a pharaoh in Egypt. The process of mummification, which involves drying out the remains, is used to preserve human bones so that they do not decompose. This was accomplished with the use of a chemical that is similar to salt and is known as nitrone. Nitrone is excellent at absorbing water and was able to remove the majority of the internal organs without causing any damage to the exterior of the body. For instance, the brain was removed through the nostrils so that it wouldn't be disfigured. A hole was cut on the side of the corpse to remove the remaining organs, except the heart, which the Egyptians believed held the secret to living forever. These organs were either placed in special jars, known as canopic jars, and buried alongside the body, or they were removed from the body and stored in a separate location before being reintroduced. After that, the body was wrapped in linen and placed in a grave along with some of the deceased individual's belongings before the tomb was sealed. Around 20 years ago, Martinez made her initial trip to Egypt to search for Cleopatra's tomb. After more than a decade of research, she became certain that the most productive site to investigate would be at Taposiris Magna, which is located on the outskirts of Alexandria and is devoted to Osiris, the god of the dead. Martinez was finally able to meet with archaeologist Zahi Hawass in Cairo, after sending hundreds of emails to the same address and having them all ignored. Hawass served as Egypt's Minister of Antiquities during that period. She was successful in convincing him to allow her to continue digging at the location for another 2 months. Since 2004, work has been done, but the recent discovery is by far the most compelling evidence yet that Martinez is following the right path. According to statements made by Martinez, this is the perfect place for Cleopatra's tomb. It's my responsibility to search for the mummy of the last queen of Egypt, even if there is just a 1% chance that she's buried there. If we are successful in locating the tomb, it'll be the most significant archaeological discovery of the 21st century. Even if we are unsuccessful in our search for the tomb, we'll still have made significant discoveries in this area, both inside and outside the temple. That's all for today's video, but we'll be right back with more soon. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, like our video, and share it with your friends and family. And also make sure you subscribe to our channel with the notification bell turned on. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.